So over the weekend, I was meeting with some new clients for the first time. And one of the things they asked me was, how did you start training dogs? Why did you start training dogs? And sometimes people ask me, why do you have 3 dogs? Well, I realized I haven't told my story thoroughly. So here is my story. The story begins just like most of you. I was a new dog owner. I was a mom. I'd raised 5 sons. They were mostly all grown. And I decided it was time to bring a dog into our lives, and mostly my life. It was really for me. So I knew what breed I wanted. I went out and got a puppy, and then I realized how much I did not know about raising a puppy. I had a lot of learning to do, and in that first year things were confusing and chaotic and crazy, but I had a lot of fun, except there were a few things that, despite my going to a large chain pet store for group training classes, and despite my going to a small boutique training center for some one-on-one classes, there's some things that sounded like they should be really, really basic that I just couldn't seem to get my small, pretty even-tempered dog to do. And the most significant one that I will share with you guys, which is what really got me into training, is she wouldn't walk on a leash. Now, she would let me put her on a leash and she would take me for a walk, which meant basically we would go out the front door and I tried a harness, and I tried an easy walk, and I tried a head collar, and I tried everything that was popular at the time to loose leash walk, and she would act like a bloodhound. She had her nose to the ground the whole time, zigging and zagging, pulling and putting things in her mouth, picking up acorns, picking up sticks, sniffing all the debris she could possibly find, going in any direction except the direction that I wanted to go in. And I studied a lot of different trainers. Even though it didn't seem to work out me going to lessons, I decided to do research online, and I followed a lot of different trainers. And at one point, I even was really following a trainer who's pretty famous from New Zealand or Australia, the other side of the world, who at one point, in order to get my dog to behave, literally had me holding a bowl over the counter and gesture pretending to eat the dog food in front of my dog. I mean, all the crazy things that we do. I tried putting her in time out when she was barking when I didn't want her to. None of that made any difference to the dog. So I realized I was going to have to discover my own answers. While I was kind of at a low point about 1.5 years into having the dog and wondering if I was ever going to be able to have a decent walk with her or really get her to listen to me when I didn't have a high value treat in my hand, I stumbled upon a trainer who lit the light bulb in my head and basically said, you do know you have to say no to your dog too, not just yes. Well, that made kind of a lot of common sense, and I watched a video of his showing people at a rescue group how to get the dogs to walk by their side instead of the dogs hauling them all around town and all around the grounds of the rescue. And I realized that that was the missing link, that was the missing information, that was the fair and clear but a little bit uncomfortable information that the mainstream big box training community didn't want shared with people, because it didn't keep selling ongoing training for life, it didn't keep selling endless amounts of treats, and essentially they just didn't like that someone would say no to their dog. Now, I, aside from being a mom of 5 boys, and yep, that took an awful lot of learning and work, but I got there and I got really competent at it. I'm also a preschool Montessori teacher, and I learned very, very early on that learning creative beings absolutely gravitate to a self-confident leader who, when they are first starting to teach them, informs them of what the limits are and what the rules are. And why would it be any different with our dogs? As soon as I started putting that into place with my first dog, things became amazingly clear. And then it was such a joy. I got us a second dog, and lo and behold, I now have 3 of them. So my story, folks, is I was just like you, especially if you're someone who is struggling with your dog. I was just like you. I couldn't find the help that I needed, and I think today, many years later, it's now more widely available. But there's still plenty of people out there that are just pushing all positive, 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 never say no to your dog, and unfortunately, that just doesn't work. It sounds good and it feels warm and cozy, but it just doesn't work with a thinking, living being, particularly an animal who has their own self-interest in mind. So that is what's behind Hillary becoming a dog trainer at Good Wellesley Dogs. If you have any questions, as always, hit me up in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.